Good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's program, An Alternative to Layoffs, Oregon WorkShare. This event is brought to you by the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition and Oregon WorkShare. First off, I want to make sure that everybody can hear me okay. If you can go ahead and type yes in the question tab if you can hear everything okay and see the screen. Great. Thank you. Please feel free to use this same question tab to ask a question at any time during the program. You can just type your question in the webinar dashboard. It should be probably to the right hand of your screen. Also in the webinar dashboard is a handouts tab. On this tab, you'll be able to have a copy of today's presentation, as well as some frequently asked questions on Oregon WorkShare, and a list of PNDC upcoming events. So feel free to use those resources. We are delighted to have Selena De La Cruz, Oregon Employment Department Program Manager, joining us here today. She's going to share updates on Oregon WorkShare, and we really appreciate her presenting this valuable information.
Great. Thank you, Kate.
Great. Selena, I'll turn things over to you.
Thank you. Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to provide you with information about the Oregon Employment Department's WorkShare program. WorkShare is a valuable tool that every business should have available should the need arise. Today I'll provide you with an overview about the program, its benefits, and its requirements. Some things you're going to learn today are what is WorkShare, advantages for employers and employees, program eligibility, the process, and frequently asked questions. Keep in mind that this information is being provided to you about this program with the intention of you using it as a tool to avoid layoffs. With WorkShare, you may not need it right now, but we will be here if or when you do. Next slide, please. So what is WorkShare? WorkShare has been around since 1983, and the agency has recently worked to streamline the program, forms, and requirements. By participating in the WorkShare program, it allows businesses to keep skilled employees during slow times by reducing work hours. As part of the program funding through unemployment insurance, it allows employees to make up for some of their lost wages. Next slide, please. Now, I'm excited to tell you about some WorkShare savings by the numbers. Businesses have saved an estimated $1.2 million in employee training by using WorkShare, allowing them to retain their skilled staff. WorkShare has also allowed businesses to save 8,466 jobs in the state as of August 2016. Additionally, 1,702 businesses have used WorkShare to avoid layoffs from 1983 to 2016. Next slide, please. In order to be eligible for WorkShare, staff hours must be reduced by 20 to 40%. A minimum of 3 employees can participate in the program with no maximum. The program plans last for up to 1 year, but can be reapplied for after that time. Next slide, please. Why would a business want to participate in WorkShare? Employees keep jobs, maintain benefits, and receive income for lost wages. Businesses save money by reducing hiring and retraining costs by keeping their skilled staff. Employers will have the support of the skilled staff of the UI Special Program Center, who will provide assistance with new featured streamlined processes. Now, after enrolling in the plan, they are flexible with the ability to be modified based on business needs. And what's really important is confidentiality is maintained through all program inquiries and participation. Next slide, please. The WorkShare process is quick and easy. First, employers apply for the program by downloading and completing a 2-page application and submitting it to the Employment Department. Approval or denial is completed typically within 1 to 2 weeks. Once approved, hours for participating employees can be reduced by 20 to 40%. Employees must submit an initial claim form to their employer to start their claim. Employees receive benefits to help make up for lost wages after serving the initial waiting week. Then businesses send in one weekly certification to cover all employees on the plan. And when business picks up, employees return to regular schedules and program benefits cease. It is very important for employer and employees to maintain communication throughout this process to ensure that true and accurate information is being provided to the employment department. Next slide, please. An example of WORKSHARE funding. So if you take John Doe here, who normally works 40 hours a week and earns $500 in regular pay, under the WORKSHARE program, John's hours are reduced by 1 day of work per week from 5 days to 4 days. That's a 20% reduction. Now, how would this compare to a total layoff for John? If we look at this example in further detail, if you compare a 100% layoff with only unemployment compensation, John Doe would receive $275 in unemployment compensation, having 0 hours for the week. Now, if John Doe participates in WORKSHARE with a 20% reduction, he would, with his normal work week of being $600, hold on a second. Be just a second. $500, sorry. The employee would have a 20% reduction, so his pay would be $400. However, John Doe will also be able to supplement the reduction in wages with the WORKSHARE payment of $55, which is 20% of the unemployment compensation he would have received if he was totally unemployed. So based on this example, John Doe's total weekly income would be $540 with 32 hours worked, with a total loss of $45 in income instead of $275 with being totally laid off.
$455, not $500.
Oh, sorry, $455. My apologies. Next slide, please. Frequently asked questions. Some frequently asked questions we've received from employers. How does the program affect employee benefits? To use the program, employers must provide benefits under the same terms and conditions as when the affected employees worked his or her usual work hours. How does program participation affect taxes? Using WORKSHARE for partial unemployment benefits affects the company's premium much the same way traditional unemployment benefits do, yet the business gets the benefit of retaining key employees. How much paperwork is required from employers? Employees simply complete a 2-page initial claim form and return it to their employer as early as possible in order to be paid timely. They are not required to look for work or submit weekly claim certifications while on the program, but must work with their employer to ensure all information on the weekly certifications are true and accurate. What is required of participating employees? Communication is very important. Employees simply complete a 2-page initial claim form, return it to their employers as early as possible in order to be paid timely, and they're not required to look for work or submit weekly claim certifications while on the program, but must work with their employers to ensure all information on the weekly certifications are true and complete. Next slide, please. So to learn more, you visit us online to review forms, watch videos, and to learn more about the program rules, requirements, and processes. Go to www.oregonworkshare.org, or you can reach out to one of our program specialists for a confidential, no-obligation conversation by calling 503-947-1800, and it looks like there's a typo in the 800 number. It's 1-800-436-6191. Or you can email oed_workshare@oregon.gov. Thank you for attending this webinar. Are there any questions?
Okay. I do, Greg, we do have some audience questions here, and I encourage our audience to type their questions in at any time during the Q&A period here. our first question, how does this differ from traditional unemployment claims?
I will let Christy answer that. She's one of our program specialists, and she's very good.
Hi. On a traditional unemployment claim, the claimant, in order to maintain eligibility, must perform 5 work-seeking activities, and any earnings and hours that they work can directly affect their weekly benefit amount. Whereas under WORKSHARE, they are not required to look for additional employment, and if they qualify for WORKSHARE, and their reduction is between 20 and 40%, their gross earnings may not affect their weekly benefit amount, and they would get the percentage reduction of that weekly benefit amount.
Great. Thank you. And a follow-up to that, does this impact my UI rating?
Yes, it does. It would impact the rating the same way a standard layoff would, but we wouldn't be able to go into detail with you on that. It's really a case-by-case basis because we have to look at the employer's account on a historical level, and that's how they determine tax rates.
Perfect. What is the lead time for getting this program started?
Same day.
Great. Can this work for exempt employers, or excuse me, exempt workers?
Yes. Their information has to be converted from salaried to hourly because the employer reports the hours worked and the gross hours earned for that week. So if they are exempt, which is the salary, and they work, a standard 40, you'd have to convert them to hourly and report the actual hours that they work. And on a second note, you asked the lead time to set it up. When the application is received, or when the application is filled out, the submitting employer will indicate the week that they want the plan to start, and we will set the plan up according to that request. It can be started the week of submittal, or set it up for future weeks.
Great information. Does the employee have to have worked a certain period of time prior to being eligible for WORKSHARE?
That would be 6 months. They have to have full-time work 6 months, or they can do part-time work for a year.
And that has to be continuous.
Great. And kind of a follow-up to that, how long can somebody, an employee, be in the program?
The same amount of time an employer has the plan. So if the employer has the plan for 1 year, which is the standard of the plan, then the employee would have the same. They can be reapplied for after that time. So if the employer is still struggling after the first year, they can reapply and have the same employees participate if that is where the need is.
Great. And for companies that reapplied, do you have an idea of how many of those are approved for being in the program beyond a year?
The only thing that would really disqualify an employer is if they don't have any employees that qualify, meaning their employees are all seasonal, or they have not met the length of employment criteria, or if there was some really significantly egregious issue with the employer. Other than that, we've not ran into any problems approving an employer.
Oh, great. Thank you. Here's a question from somebody who has some previous experience working with WORKSHARE, saying it was kind of a bit of a challenge on the paperwork side of things. I know you had mentioned that there have been some improvements made. Can you kind of go through some of those?
Absolutely. So this program's been around since 1983, so you can imagine how paper-intensive a program like that could be. So what we've done is we've streamlined the website. We've made it more user-friendly. The program forms are now available to download in a PDF fillable form. and they can be digitally signed and emailed through our secure email. You do have to contact our staff to set up secure email to be able to send program documents, but keep in mind it is a government program, so we are trying to modernize as quickly as possible, but we're doing as much as we can with the little that we have to be able to do it with. So the program forms have been updated to where they can now be downloaded instead of just faxed over to us, which caused some issues because you have illegible or errors, things like that. Additionally, we did set up some program rules and Oregon administrative rule that allows us to really clearly display what the expectations are being part of the program, and also as with the program forms, instead of having the employee submit the forms that they fill out, the employer now submits the form on the employee's behalf. So the employee is just communicating with the employer, letting them know the information is true and accurate, and then the employer submits it on their behalf. We have also changed the weekly claim certification. Instead of an employer submitting one weekly claim per employee, they can now put them all on one form. Per week.
Great, great. This sounds very much more streamlined for the employees. What kind of reception does this program usually get from employees?
We don't deal with the employees very often. Our primary contact is with the employer. The feedback that we get from the employers is that the employees are thankful that they have this because they're still able to work and maintain their benefits and still accrue vacation and sick time and all of that. So it's been, from the feedback that I personally received, it's been received real positively.
And to add to that, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, I imagine so.
Yeah. To add to that, what she has said, we actually have had some employees that have given us some feedback that have said that they appreciate the ability to keep their health and retirement benefits intact, like they're working full-time, and also it's a work-life balance because this is a voluntary program. Employees can say, you know what, I don't want to be part of this program, I'm going to go look for another job, and they can do that. We're not telling them you have to be part of this program. That's why part of the WORKSHARE employer's plan is that they have to communicate with their staff to let them know that their intention of participating in the WORKSHARE program.
Great. Anything particular those in the manufacturing program should be aware of? Most of our members are in manufacturing, and I know it can be cyclical at times. Are there any particular advice you have for people in that field?
The WORKSHARE program is actually a program that is pretty much ideally suited to the manufacturing industry because of it being cyclical. Cyclical versus seasonal, where we have in this area we have a lot of seasonal employers. The majority of the WORKSHARE participants that we have are in some sort of a manufacturing capacity.
Perfect. And actually we have a comment from one of our attendees joining online that they've used the WORKSHARE program before, and it's worked wonderful, and they've been especially pleased with the help they've been able to call and receive from the office. So good feedback there.
Fantastic. Appreciate that.
Yeah. And here is another question. Can WORKSHARE be mixed with a typical full layoff?
Go ahead, Gary. Okay. Yes and no. If you're on the WORKSHARE program and you have a situation come up where you just are not going to be able to maintain the work for a group of people, and you're going to have to lay them off completely, you can keep them under the umbrella of the WORKSHARE program and the temporary layoff rules if it is less than 4 weeks and you have a specific return to work date for them. If it is going to be something where you do not know when they will be going back to work or at all, it would be in the best interest to just remove them from your plan and have them revert to regular unemployment and do the work-seeking activities then.
Great. Any last audience questions? I'll give people a little bit of time to type those in. In kind of wrapping up, maybe you can give us each one piece of advice that you hope everybody walks away from this program with.
Communication is key between the employer, the employee, and the employment department. It's probably the most important piece of information you can have, because if the employee starts working somewhere else, they need to let their employer know that they've got wages from another employer, and the employer is the one that's submitting the forms on behalf of the employee, so it's up to them to make sure that that information is true and accurate between the two of them. So I would say communication is key. Christy?
I would suggest reading and going to the website, reading the law and the rule, reviewing the documents, then contacting us directly with questions after you've reviewed them. It's much easier to explain the program and the documents when you've familiarized yourself with them, and asking questions and all along the process is very, very important. It's better to be proactive than reactive in this program.
Berta?
Again, it would be the communication. Make sure that you are communicating with your employee and with us for anything. And if you need anything, any questions, give us a call, because we're more than happy to answer anything you have.
Wonderful. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you lending your considerable expertise to this program. That sounds like a great option for many of our members. And I will thank our audience for joining us here today. There will be a recording of this presentation available, and we'll send it to everybody in case you want to share this with some of your colleagues. I will put up a few highlights of upcoming PNDC events that we'll have coming up. We do, here we go. There we go. Upcoming PNDC events. We do have another webinar coming up next week, different subject, presenting financial fraud. We do have several of our supply chain opportunities conferences coming up, our annual Military Employer Summit, honoring those who support our military members, and then our Homeland Security Symposium will be coming up in June. So thank you everyone for joining us here today, and thank you to our guests. That concludes our webinar.